In so many ways, the 2023 Saints are really frustrating. They seem so close to being a pretty good team, but getting over that hump has been really difficult. Now, the Saints are 5-7 on the season. 5 of those losses have come by one score. That's 8 points or less. And, of course, the latest example, Sunday against the Lions, and it was frustrating. Now, we're going to talk mostly big picture stuff tonight, but let's start our 4 takeaways with the only stat that really mattered in this game. You know what didn't matter in this game? The Saints were perfect, 4 for 4, scoring touchdowns in the red zone. Now, that did keep them close, but it obviously wasn't enough. And they actually outgained the Lions overall, which seemed impossible when it was 21-0. The singular stat that mattered, the Saints were -2 in turnover margin. Beating a really good Detroit team was going to be hard enough. -2 made it insurmountable. The Saints needed somebody on defense to make a play. That never happened, and the Lions converted both of the Saints' turnovers into short TD drives, so it was 14-0 in points off of turnovers. And turnover margin has been a telling stat all season. When turnovers are close, that's +1, -1, or even, the Saints are 3-4. They're roughly 500. When they're winning the turnover margin, +2 or better, they're unbeaten. And when they're losing it, -2 or worse, they're 0-3. That includes Sunday, and simply put, they could not overcome that turnover margin. Let's get to the real question looming over this team right now. It's about the coach, and it's actually 2 questions. Should Dennis Allen be back next season, and will Dennis Allen be back next season? These are very different questions. At number 3, here's the simple case for Dennis Allen. Down 21-0 to a legitimate playoff team, the Saints were done. It was over. I think everyone thought that, except maybe for the Saints team. Their fight, when it should have been over, shows again that Dennis Allen inspires that fight in his team, and that means something. But at number 2, simply put, the problem is they're just not getting it done. Dennis Allen was hired to continue Sean Payton's legacy with the Saints, but in 29 games now in New Orleans, Dennis Allen's record is 12-17 with the Saints. If you include his time as the Raiders head coach, he is now 20-45 as a head coach. Obviously, this record does not inspire a lot of confidence, and here's a real problem. The Saints are now losing their fan base. Derek Carr was booed every time he came on and off the field, and I don't ever remember seeing more opposing fans in the Superdome, which brings us to number 1. The big finish is here. 5 games to go. Right now, the Saints have 0 margin for error. Both the Falcons and the Bucs won this week. Those final 5 games, though, include 1 each against Tampa Bay and Atlanta, and nobody on the remaining schedule has a winning record. Dennis Allen got the quarterback he wanted, and the NFC South is a disaster. I do think if the Saints don't get to the playoffs this season, they should make a coaching change. But will they? I do think it's possible, but I think the next 5 weeks will determine that, and I think it could go either way. And that's our 4 takeaways from the Saints losing at home to the Lions. LSU's Jaden Daniels is a Heisman Trophy finalist. 4 college football players are headed to New York for Saturday's ceremony. Oregon's Bo Nix is probably Daniels' biggest competition, but I think Jaden Daniels will win the Heisman Trophy. And the Pelicans are playing right now in Sacramento in the quarterfinals of the NBA's in-season tournament. Jose Alvarado and Najee Marshall sparked the Pelicans in the second quarter. New Orleans leads it right now at halftime by 8. And we're back with more in a minute.